I'm just telling you, I'm not going to answer the first two questions. First question I already know is, do I wear a wig? The answer is no. Do I dye my hair? I only dye the hairs around the gray ones. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome, everyone.
All right.
That applause you hear is for our special guest today on the Geek Speak video show. It's Neal Adams, the iconic, classic artist of so many of your favorite books, and we are so happy that he is here today. It's an honor to have you here, Neal.
Keep it short.
Yeah, welcome to Flying Colors.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And would you please introduce the mayor who is here to ask questions?
Yes, Vice Mayor Ron Leone is also here, representing the city of Concord. Thank you. And a devout Superman fan and fan of Neal Adams. So it's only appropriate that he's here as well.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get to this, huh? I want to talk. A lot of people don't know that your early work was in Archie Comics.
Okay, it was.
And
good. Was that short? That was short.
Okay.
I did Archie joke books. I did Archie joke book pages. I had to make them up. And if anybody knows Junior Scholastic Magazine, do you guys?
Yeah.
I used to tear out the joke page at the end and put them in my tabouret. And when Archie hired me to do that, I just pulled them out and stole the jokes. Because nobody really makes up jokes. You know, they just like steal them. A little kid comes into the store and says to the storekeeper who's selling shoes and says, how do they make shoes? And the storekeeper says, hide. The kid says, hide? The guy says, hide. The cow's outside. The kid says, who's afraid of a cow? Cow's outside. Get it? Junior Scholastic Magazine. $32.50 I got paid.
Okay, so after Archie, humor still stays in there. Besides doing the comic strips, Ben Casey and whatnot, which was not humor, it was more
very
soap
funny
opera.
strip about a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, but then you go to DC Comics and you were working on Jerry Lewis and Bob
I was working
Hope.
on Jerry Lewis because nobody else was doing it, and I could pencil 10 pages a day. It's the best money I made in comics.
Wow.
10 pages a day. Then I gave it up for Dead Man, 2 pages a day. What's wrong with me? Crazy. No, we have a thing in comics and in cartooning and all the rest of it. For those of you who are fans or students, we have Bigfoot artists and Littlefoot artists. Bigfoot artists are cartoonists. They do the cartoons because they have big feet. Littlefoot artists are guys who draw superheroes who have little tiny feet compared to their bodies, right? Little tiny feet. That's why they're called Littlefoot artists. So I started as a Bigfoot artist, and I went to Littlefoot art, and then I bounced around in between. A lot of people don't know that I do animation. A lot of people don't know that I design rides for amusement parks. I really do a lot, movie posters and stuff like that. Comic books are, well, it's not a small part because it takes a long time. I would say about a third to half of what I do. Then I do other stuff. And what I do in particular, see, I'm going long now.
No, go for it.
Long. See, you started me and I'm going long. What I tend to do is I like to solve problems. I'm one of the problem solvers. I just repeated myself. Jesus, I can't believe I did.
Well, wait a minute. Now, you said you designed amusement park rides, but I hear that your first job was working at Coney Island on the carousel.
My first job was to work on Coney Island to lift the little kids and the big fat ladies onto the horses. The consolation prize was my boss, Jim McCullough, very good-looking, handsome man, taught me how to open women's bras by helping them up onto the horse. And you can do it with one hand. I'm going to teach it to you. It goes like this. That's it. That's how
you didn't know you were going to learn that today, did you?
I'm sorry. And then they go, whoa, like this, right? How did my brow open? I don't know, ma'am.
Okay, so let's talk about Warren Publications then.
And Jim Warren, the
yeah,
Warren Publications, a total jerk. Did I say that? No, he's a total jerk when he's trying to be a total jerk. Otherwise, he's a really nice guy. Not. I'm sorry.
And how long?
There are jerks in the world, right? Our neighbors are jerks, right? I'm looking around a room who's got neighbors, and they're jerks, right? Everyone, you find a jerk. Archie Goodwin, who was the editor over at Warren Publication, was an angel, a wonderful, wonderful person who worked for a jerk. And Harlan Ellison also worked periodically for a jerk, and both of them were jerks, Harlan and Jim Warren. So let me tell you a story. I got a great story. I get this story called Rock God for Warren Publications, okay? And I go home and I work on it, and the phone rings at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I get on the phone, and the guy says, Neal Adams? Yeah. Are you Neal Adams? Yeah. Are you working on Rock God? I think so. I was given the story. I think I have to adapt it. I'm waiting for a script. No script. You're just going to adapt it. Okay, who is this? Harlan Ellison. Did that jackass give you that script? Couldn't be talking about Archie. Must be talking about Jim Warren. He introduced me to my second wife. What a witch! I'm sorry, Mr. Ellison. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and I'm in California. It's later. It's later? Okay, look. See, I think it's earlier, isn't it? You got me confused now. Look, I gotta get to work. Yeah, I think I'm doing your. Well, I told him that nobody could do that story but you, and that jackass had better be giving you the story, or else I'll kill him. Okay, sure, I got it. Thanks. Goodbye. Go back to work. Half hour later, I get a phone call. It's Jim Warren. Neal, did that jerk Harlan call you? Jim, I barely spent 2 minutes with you, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
And you don't get paid by the hour.
Really? But I just want to tell you that you're doing the job. I assigned it to you, and no matter what the hell he seemed to want me to do it. Well, okay then you're doing it. God, and hung up the phone. Okay, that's. Whew. A half hour later, I get another call from Harlan. Till 4 o'clock in the morning, these two crazy people are calling me to tell me why the other guy is such a jackass. Unbelievable. Apparently, he did introduce him to his second wife. Apparently, holds a grudge, and apparently, they're both crazy. So you wanted to know about Warren Publication?
Yeah. It sounds like a pretty creepy place to be.
No, not at all, because you have Archie Goodwin fronting it, who's like, an angel. Archie Goodwin had one bad habit. You guys maybe don't know this. He would be walking with a bunch of guys in the Sheraton Hotel where we used to have, not the Sheraton, the Penta, whatever it was, with Phil Suling.
Oh, yeah.
Phil Suling? And he'd be walking with guy, and we'd be going down a ramp, and he'd trip and fall, and it looked like he broke his neck, and we'd rush over to help him, and he'd start laughing. Because he did pratfalls. And he would do it in the most embarrassing and most wonderful times where everybody is looking and talking about something else, and suddenly Archie goes tumbling down. Crazy Archie? Anyway, that's the worst thing about Archie. Other than that, he was great. Fantastic.
Well, let's talk about that Silver Age period at DC Comics then. So you go from Warren, and then I guess your stuff is seen there a little bit, and you wind up doing...
It took me too long to do those stories.
Yeah.
They were very complicated and very hard, and I did different art techniques. If you study it, it's a study in art. I mean, each story was done in a different technique. There's some stories are done with different compositional techniques. It was just, I was breaking free because before that, I had a syndicated strip based on the Ben Casey TV series, which you sort of mentioned earlier, that I was on for 3.5 years. And it was very kind of stifling, whereas Warren was very freedom-inducing to me. Unfortunately, I took too long on the story, so I had to go someplace where I could turn out stuff quicker. So I went to D.C., and I knew that Joe Kubert was now on the Green Beret, which I had introduced him to through the guy who was writing it, because they tried to get me to do the Green Beret, and I said, Joe Kubert, get Joe Kubert. So they paid him well, and they got him to do that. And I thought, hey, Joe's not doing war stories. Why don't I go to D.C. and get some war stories? So I did. And then it was like I had fallen from the sky. People in comic books don't know people in strips.
Right.
So, and people in strips very often are learned. They're the best, essentially the best guys from comics. So, and I was a very serious illustrator. So when I came to DC Comics, it was like, who the hell is this guy? What is he, like 17? Well, at that time I was 14, but it still seemed like I was 17, and I could do anything. So just whatever they gave me, I did. Among those were Jerry Lewis and Bob Hope comic books.
Nice.
A little circle around there. There you go. Yeah.
But it seemed, though, for the fan market, you made your big splash doing some of those covers, those iconic covers for DC and Dead Man.
Part of that was because those guys didn't know how. Most guys at DC Comics didn't know how to do covers.
Right.
We have some covers there. The camera could take a look at them, but you got Superman breaking chains on his chest. Isn't that obvious? Yes, it doesn't seem to be obvious to everybody. There's a lot of things that seem iconic and make good covers and still are good ideas. And what you have to do as an artist is you have to take the iconic part and put it together with the good idea. A lot of comic books that you have in the store here, some of them are iconic, some of them have good ideas, but usually the good ideas are a mishmash, and the iconic are boring. So you have to take the iconic and the mishmash and kind of put it together and make an iconic mishmash.
Well, with that Superman cover, the Kryptonite No More, that felt like it was a throwback to a golden age that you were going back to.
Yes, it was, and it's probably the worst drawn cover I ever did in my life. There's copies of it right there. It is a piece of crap. It's hard to say. I did it in 2.5 to 3 hours, and I was like, get this thing away from me, please. I have other things to do. And now it's turned into probably the most popular cover in comic books forever.
Yeah.
And they sold millions of copies and didn't tell anybody because the comic book distributors kind of bought them off the newsstand. Anyway, so that's how new comic book stores started.
That is
buying comic books out of the local distributor. But that one sold so many copies that now I get mint condition copies of it at comic book conventions to sign. And so I have to look at it all the time. So just to get back a little bit, I did a drawing in pencil of the Superman thing, and then Alex Ross painted it. But at least I got to show people what it should have looked like, and nobody cares. They just like that one. It's just the way it is, folks. I got to tell you, I got no taste.
No, but we do have a lot of nostalgia for things that we remember fondly, and that's definitely one of them.
That's true.
So I want to ask about your time at Marvel, then doing X-Men and.
They thought I fell out of the sky too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about going to Marvel. You may have heard this. If you heard this, boo. Okay, I go to. See, you don't know what to do, right? You kind of go. He means for me to boo, really? I've heard this story. So I go to Marvel, I talk to Stan Lee, and I say, Stan, I'd like to do a book for Marvel. I've been doing books for DC Comics. He said, what do you want to do? You can do any book in the place. I said, well, you don't mean I can do any book in a place. You got people to sign to Fantastic Four. He says, no, any book in the place. I said, why are you saying that, Stan? It doesn't make any sense. He says, because, Neal, the only book here at Marvel that we read is Dead Man from DC. Okay. All right. I said, okay, what's your worst selling title? He said, my worst selling title? I said, yeah. He said, well, X-Men, I'm going to cancel it in 2 issues. So I said, okay, I'd like to do that. He said, I don't think you heard me. I'm going to cancel it in 2 issues. I said, well, but for those 2 issues, you're not going to pay any attention to it, right? He said, no, and we're going to cancel it in 2 issues. I said, well, I kind of like the idea of working the Marvel method, where I do the story and you put the words in. He said, well, I can't even put the words in because Roy Thomas said, I'm fine. I don't care who puts the words in. I just want to do the story. So I did 10 issues of X-Men. Some of you may remember those 10 issues. Then they canceled the book for several years. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then they brought it back, and everybody who did that book after that did those 10 issues over and over and over again from their point of view, how they would do them. So the X-Men shot up. What Stan did at that time when he said I could do the X-Men, he says, okay, we'll make a deal. And here's a story that is funny 10 years ago, but not today. He said, He said, okay, you do the X-Men, we cancel it, and then you do an important book like the Avengers. Now, you see that? Nobody's laughing because the Avengers has gone up.
Yeah.
10 years ago, the Avengers in the toilet.
Right.
Sorry. So that 10 years ago, funny story. Right now, nothing.
Okay,
so I did, and I did the Avengers, and I think that all of us, well, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are waiting for the Ant-Man to crawl into the Vision's body and go inside there and explore around in there. I think that we're all waiting for that to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see that on the screen.
I want to ask you about a very important part of your work back in the 70s.
Ask some questions?
Yeah.
Come on, all right.
Doing a great job.
All right.
I want to ask about the Comics Creators Guild.
Yes.
You and Jerry Robinson helped
Robinson had nothing to do with it.
No, but it helped get recognition. Didn't the two of you work together to get Siegel and Schuster some recognition?
Well, let me say this. I worked for 4 months to get Jerry and Joe taken care of, and then right at the end I invited Jerry to be part of it, and he actually put the final plug in by having a meeting with the Cartoonist Society, at which I was able to talk to the International Reporters Guild, or whatever they're called, and talk them into a news conference. That news conference put the nail in the coffin and took care of Jerry and Joe for the rest of their lives. I don't know about now because of all this crap that's going on, but we took care of them until they died. They were taken care of. They had money in the pocket. They owned their own places. Everybody was, and Joe, who had never gotten married, got married. Who divorced him and took whatever money she could.
Oh.
But he was happy. I mean, he was happy. You know, like if you haven't gotten married and you get married to a witch, you know, I say witch that time, right? I didn't say witch the first time. I'm sorry. You can do that. Okay. She was apparently not a very nice person, but he was happy as a pig in, mud. So I think I did a good job. Gold star in the notebook. I was told by somebody a long time ago that the more good deeds I do, the more hair I can keep. Think about that. Gotta push the good deeds, I'm telling you.
Okay, so let's talk about the Comics Creators Guild then.
Okay.
And that was
Academy of Comic Book Arts.
that wasn't that a sort of an attempt to unionize?
No.
Okay, so
It was an attempt to have an organization of people who were. There's different levels of organizations. You can have a guild. You can have a union. You don't have a union. You can have an academy. You can have an academy. You can have a guild. You can have a union. Academy can't do anything. A guild can do a lot. Certainly, a union can do a lot more. Everybody was afraid to step forward, so we had an academy. The academy, we said things that we believed in. We got together. But the truth of the matter is, everybody at that time. Remember, I was new and young, and I came into the business as this young lion who wasn't afraid of anybody, and everybody was terrified they'd lose their job next week. And so being terrified meant that I had to trick them into standing for the things that they needed to stand for. So in our first meeting at the Illustrators Club, for example, first time all these artists had met one another, I went over to say Kurt Swan, and I said, Kurt, I love your work, blah, 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 all the wonderful things I say to Kurt Swan, and I say, how much do you get a page? He said, oh, we don't really talk about that. I said, oh, really? Well, I get $55 a page. He said, yeah? I said, well, what do you get? He says, I get 50 a page. Gee, I think you deserve more than I do. You're the Superman guy. He says, well, Monday I'm going to get $55. So I started a little that way, a little bit of labor union kind of. When we finally, and I also stopped the originals from being destroyed at DC Comics. They were being ripped up. And I was very subtle and very intellectual with this one. I just want to tell you, you can't let it go beyond the doors because, you don't want to accuse somebody of being far too intellectual. A guy was cutting up original pages by the cutting board. Really? So I went over to him and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm the low man on the totem pole here. Every 3 months I cut up this crap. You're cutting up original pages. Yeah. Just stop for a minute, okay? You really shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, fine. Okay. Listen, I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk to a few people like Carmine and Erwin Donenfeld, and I don't think we want to cut up these pages anymore. They're going to get put away. So until I finish, can you just please not cut up any more pages? So he said, yeah, sure, fine. So I said, okay. Let me put that a different way. I really don't want you to cut up any pages while I'm talking to those people out there. Fine. Okay. Let me put another way. If I come back and you've cut up 1 page, I'm going to punch you in the face really hard. Well, he walked off in a huff. So from that day on, no pages were cut up. Took us 7 years to get those pages back. 7 years.
Ouch. Okay.
And part of it was we understood about, we have 5 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. And part of that was that really they didn't, according to the law, you really sell 2 things. You sell rights and you sell actual property. If you buy one of my drawings over there, those beautiful drawings, gorgeous, wonderful drawings. If you buy one of those, you can't print it. You can own it, but you haven't bought the printing rights to it. You can buy the printing rights to it, but you can't have it. Well, you can't buy the printing rights because a lot of those are superheroes that are owned by DC and Marvel. So those 2 things are separate things. The original art is property, like a glass, okay? The other one is rights, which have to do with this nebulous thing that they try to deal with in the sales tax law. So we were able to establish that the property stuff was not purchased and it belongs to the artists. And so now the artists keep their stuff and they're able to sell it and people are able to buy it. And you guys can go and buy that stuff on the internet and the artists can profit by it. That year, every artist in comics doubled their income. Doubled.
Awesome.
Everybody was afraid to say anything.
Okay, we're going to go for some shotgun questions here from the people who've come in.
Okay.
So Bobby Chioda asks, who is your favorite character to draw and why?
God.
Do you have a favorite?
Okay. I'm a professional. I'm not supposed to have a favorite. When I draw Superman, it's supposed to be Superman. When I draw Deadman, it's supposed to be Deadman.
Yeah.
Because I am a professional. And so I don't really have a favorite, okay? Now, given that I said that, that is a really boring answer. I find that to be one of the most boring answers in the world because who gives a crap when I'm a professional, you know? I want an interesting answer. So I have made up a lie. Which I do feel an obligation to do because of the excitement and the fun of it. You know, like there's nothing wrong with a little white lie, and you can go and spread it, and then you can say, but that's a lie. He even said it, you know, Neal said it, but it's a lie. She told me it's a lie. But it's a good answer. So this is the answer if you want the lie. Now you have to tell me if you want me to lie to you.
Oh, yeah, lie to us.
Okay. Somehow I was able to figure out that. Okay, this is the answer. My favorite character to draw is Batman because he's like drawing 2 characters, Batman and his cape. Isn't that great? Total bullshit.
Okay.
I'm just got to tell you.
Okay, who was the influence for Ra's al Ghul?
You know, the actor, I'm not going to think of it. Marilyn, help me. Where's Marilyn? She's always my memory. Bad guy, Jack Palance.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Imagine Jack Palance as an Arab, right? Only more so. And looking actually intelligent. That really sort of was the basic undercurrent of that, because that is an evil-looking guy.
Oh, yeah. That was superfan John Ebling's question. Okay, now we're on to Darryl Granz, who asks, what ambitions other than art do you have?
Science. I'm interested in making movies. I hate Frank Miller for getting the opportunity to make movies. I could just throttle him, and I hate him for it. Oh, just trembles up my spine. Yeah, he's like my son, you know, and he goes off and makes movies. Oh, dirty rat. So why can't I, you know, somebody give me, please. So and I have a bunch of science stuff. You guys can look it up on the internet. It'll bore you, but it's a lot of fun. I love science. I have 2 interests outside of comics, and they are boring. Outside of comics, they're science and religion as relative to history. Isn't that boring? No.
Okay.
The great thing about those 2 things is that you can clear a room in 2 minutes. Everybody's gone.
Okay, Lance Johnson asks, is there any character where if you never drew him or her again, it would be too soon?
No, really. No, they'll give me a chance. If I say it out loud, they'll give it to me to do. I'm going to be doing Superman now. In fact, I just finished writing the 6th book of a Superman series, where Superman deals with Apocalypse and Darkseid and Orion, Mr. Miracle, and New Krypton.
Ah, Fourth World.
Oh yeah. If I get that feeling, I go and say, "Can I do it?" And usually they say, "Yeah." I'd like to do the X-Men before Professor X, and I'd like to make Wolverine the head of the X-Men. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I did it. So it's here. You can probably buy it right over there.
John Mitchell asks, who was your favorite writer to work with?
Neal Adams.
Yeah.
I like Neal. Neal got to do most of the Dead Man stories. Neal got to do Superman versus Muhammad Ali, if anybody's interested, Batman Odyssey, and Superman.
Yeah.
My 2 second favorites are for different reasons. Denny ONeil, who is a really good realistic writer. He writes realistic well. He names things very, very badly. But he's a good, gritty, down-to-earth writer. Roy Thomas he pulls magic out of the air. I don't know how he does it. I don't consider him a good writer as a story plotter, but as a guy who puts dialogue together, I mean, this looks like Metropolis, Fritz Lang's, not Clark Kent's. Great line, fabulous line. The robots, my sentinels fly into the sun, and instead of writing something dramatic, he just writes the sun, and he gives all the conditions and temperatures and upon which the sentinels will make barely a ripple. Oh, isn't that good? I love that.
So Mike Alvarez asks, how much of an input did you have on the story while working with Denny ONeil during your time drawing Batman?
When he was writing, none.
Yeah. None?
None.
Okay.
None. When it was concept time, like the drug story, that's mine. That first cover is mine. That's what I submitted. That's what they rejected.
The Green Lantern, Green Arrow, the drug. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they rejected for about a month, until Stan did a book about some guy popping pills and walking off a roof.
Right.
And then didn't put the Comics Code seal on it because he was the boss. And guess what? Nobody noticed. And so DC Comics went ape. Okay, it's that dirty word at the end. Ape.
Yeah.
Okay. And they changed the Comics Code within a week. And then I was able to do the drug issues, and Denny did the scripts. This is not to say that the scripts were either fantastic or not fantastic, but when you see the first cover, you pretty much know what's going on. I also created John Stewart, and Denny did write the story, but it's the creation of John Stewart that made us have a black superhero in comics that we now can see as the leader of the Justice League on Saturday and Sunday morning, and who is the person who, when they announced that they were going to have a Green Lantern movie and it was going to be a Hal Jordan Green Lantern, all the kids in America went, Hal Jordan? Who the hell is that? Isn't John
How did that
Stewart,
work?
Green Lantern? I don't get it. And then lost, I don't know, $150 million because they didn't do it right. Like the Batman guys.
This has been instructive. I know you're all going to have more questions for him as you come up to see him,
Sure.
But we're out of time for the video now. I want to thank you for taking part in this.
Pleasure.
I want to thank Henry and Joel and Angel from Geek Speak Video Show for setting up here, and check out their other videos online as well. Everybody have a good time, okay? And the fun continues from here. Thank you, and we'll see you again sometime soon.